Boom. Welcome to another episode of Same Storm, Different Boat. Today we're talking to a man with a very interesting career path. This is our friend Wayne Neal. Wayne has flown helicopters for the Australian military, the U.S. military, oil drilling and such events in Texas and Mississippi. Moved on to do security for the Dallas Cowboys, which is my favorite. That's my favorite job you've ever had. Then in Texas, decided to open steak restaurants in Texas. That takes some courage. And next thing I know, he's driving a bus, and then he's driving Little River Band and other bands. He's got a fleet of buses. Now he's got a fleet of trucks and lives in Las Vegas. So that's quite a history, my friend. Welcome to Same Storm, Different Boat.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here, of course.
And by the way, I noticed, I saw the keys and the whatever. He's speaking to us from the cab of one of his trucks. He's on the road in Texas, and we will get to all of that. But good to see you again.
Heading to your favorite town tomorrow, Nashville.
Oh, you're headed that way. You're headed east. Excellent.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, there you go. Now that's the perfect segue to turn you over to the Tennessee girl.
There you go. How are you? It's so good to see you.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Last time we saw you guys was, I guess, in Vegas.
Yeah.
Was a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Time flies, huh?
At a show that, let's not bring that up right now. That we can't
That
do.
was that was not a good show?
Oh no, that was a good show, but the shows that we can't do anymore. That's the.
Oh yeah, well.
Yeah, well.
That's the issue.
And so
Vegas is a ghost town right now.
Yeah, I heard
gosh.
you say that. That's crazy.
That's crazy. So listen, we'll just kind of jump right in. Like Wayne said, I met you through LRB and Wayne, and you had the restaurants and you were booking bands, and then you transitioned to tour buses and a bus company, and then now your fleet of trucks. So what has it been like to make all those transitions?
It has been interesting. I've had a love of music, and by opening my restaurants and providing music, it kind of a release to be able to do that. And then buying a bus, I managed a couple of bands, and I kind of bought a bus and then realized, maybe I like kind of the bus business, but I'm not one to hand it off to anybody else. So driving was kind of an essential part of that, to know what my drivers are doing wrong and right. If you don't know yourself, then you can't really do it properly. So I drove, and driving's okay, but it's the relationships you build on the road with bands. And I mean, we rescued you guys once. You had a bus on the bus, and I had an old shitty bus that we came and got you, and served the purpose. We got you down the road, but it was interesting along the route. So yeah, I bought a couple more buses and kind of got into the swing of it, and then was introduced to the trucking side of it as well. Not only transporting the band, we could transport the gear, and we did security. So we kind of had a one-stop shop of buses, bodyguards, and trucks, which worked pretty well. Then I had some partners I took on who were not so good, and I decided that I wanted to get out of the bus business. The bus business is the most expensive. The equipment's expensive. It's expensive to fix. Dealing with a lot of people. My phone seemed to never stop ringing 24/7. So my quality of life was not real good when you've got 8 or 9 buses rolling down the road. And they all seem to break down Sunday at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, yeah, or on a holiday or something like that. So the trucking side of it was pretty enticing because it generated a little less money. I had brand new equipment, so the repairs went away completely. And, you know, the stuff in the back of the truck doesn't talk back to you. So
I was about to say, there's a lot less personalities riding around with
a
you.
lot less personality. All you got to do is get it there and unload it. I have the fortune of with a band called Theory of a Dead Man. They're an amazing band, great guys. I've known them for years and years, and I've been with them pretty exclusively for the last 3 years now. We just did a tour right before the virus hit. We did a tour across Canada, and that was horrible, but I mean, we did. And so, yeah, I mean, it's getting out of the bus business has been bittersweet, but actually good in the long run.
Right.
So I was able to, and I can buy 10 trucks to 3 buses. So the revenue potential actually goes up because you can't buy $1 million bus every other day.
Exactly.
$150,000 truck. So yeah, so that was kind of my transition into the trucking world. And during the virus, we're doing all the entertainment stuff stopped in a matter of a week. Boom.
Don't we know that one?
So we had to transition into doing moving freight. So that's what we've done. My guys are thankful to still be working, and we're pretty busy. We're doing 3 times the work for the amount of pay we get now because all the other truck drivers and companies that would normally be doing something else are also pushing freight. And it's all essential freight. So it's food products, it's paper products, it's some building supplies and stuff like that. So there's been a mass flood of truck drivers needing work. And some of these bigger companies are just doing whatever they can just to sustain until they get back to what they normally do. So it's driven the rates down, I mean, horrifically, where we were getting $2 a mile, $2.50 a mile. Their brokers are raping the industry at 80 cents a mile, 90 cents a mile. And you can barely survive with that. So kind of what we've been doing.
Do you see that because companies are, just anybody and everybody is out there moving freight and goods, do you see the drivers cutting corners?
Oh, absolutely. There are some idiots out here. I mean, I don't get it. I was telling Wayne a story the other day when we first chatted that I was doing my laundry at a truck stop, and a guy came in and he was like standing right next to me, and I said, "Hey man, do you want to back up a little bit?" And he said, "Well, what's your problem?" I said, "Well, the virus, 6 feet social distancing." And he goes, "Virus? What virus?" And I go,
Oh my God.
"Virus." And he goes, "Corona beer has a virus? I don't even drink Corona beer." He watched the TV and he goes, "I don't know anything about a virus." And I go, "Dude, you are not living on this planet." I mean, I couldn't believe it. And this is the guy traveling across the country, and he had no clue. No whatsoever.
That's crazy. That just, I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around that. How can you be out there and not know that this is going on?
And there's signs. Truck stops are doing what they can for, they put signs up everywhere. There's little lines on the floor. But some of these guys they don't get it. I mean, I even go into the truck stop. I'll go in the middle of the night when there's low traffic and do what I got to do. But I just avoid people. It's actually pretty fortunate in the truck. I've got everything I need. I got a TV, internet, fridge, microwave, and coffee machine. That's a key. So I can isolate myself fairly well, but I still got to use the bathroom and shower and do laundry.
Right.
You just gotta time it out and tell people to get the hell away from you.
I got to say that, especially, I didn't realize you were going to be on the road. I thought you were at home when we decided to do this today. So two things. I'm surprised to see that you're behind the wheel again, or still, however that works out. But being in a world that is so isolated as you travel, it is shocking to run across even somebody in the description that you just gave, because there's, for people that don't know, there's trucker radio. There are all manner of communication between truckers, number one, but with the rest of the world and with certain people who just broadcast radio at night to keep truckers awake and whatever. I mean,
I've heard.
Is it common for you to run across people that are that out of touch?
No, I don't. I think this guy lives under a rock in his truck.
Right.
2 little mangy dogs with him, and I bumped into that guy about a month ago, so it was kind of right when it started.
Okay.
But there were lines on the floor of the truck stop he was in, so it didn't even faze him. Most of these truckers, they think it's just a case of the flu. This is the big thing. Oh, it's only the flu, and I don't think they fully realize the potential. Like, I could be carrying the virus with no symptoms and hand it off to somebody else. And they don't quite get that concept. And, this stuff kills people pretty quick.
And it's doing it in different ways too. I mean, a good friend of ours, Christopher Cross, is paralyzed because of issues with his legs and blood clotting and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't just give you a cough and then you've got flu-like symptoms. This thing is giving people strokes and blood clots and heart attack. It's crazy how it morphs for a different person's body.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Howard Stern's producer's father-in-law died of the coronavirus, and he had gone to the hospital with bronchitis, got the virus in the hospital, and died 6 days later.
And never came out. Never got out.
Never came out.
Wow.
And the saddest thing was the family couldn't visit him. He was quarantined. They couldn't even have a funeral for him. They basically buried the guy, and they drove to the cemetery, stayed in their cars, and watched him put him in the ground.
Yeah.
For a religious type person, that's got to be horrific.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of hit home for me that, this is, New York. You can see the spikes, of the older people, and all the New Yorkers moving to Florida, and then Florida spikes up, and you're probably in a state of Canadian snow bunnies and retiree type people too. So, it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, and for us, we've age age and a health issue, so it's nothing to take lightly. Do you see the people, the truck drivers out there? Are they taking the precautions, like when they're fueling? Are they wiping down?
Some are. I can fuel. I don't even have to go inside to fuel, so I can do it remotely with an app, and I do that pretty much all the time. And you see some truck drivers with gloves on and masks driving down the highway, which is stupid.
Why? You're in your own cab.
right. You're in your own cab, right? So they've heard the message, but don't fully comprehend. Wear a mask when you're around people, and wash your hands when you're around people. But when you're by yourself, it's gonna be okay, you know. And I see that a lot. Them driving, they got a mask on, driving down the highway. We do a lot of stuff with Amazon, and you can't enter their premises without wearing a mask. So which is great. And my son is driving for me, and he was at Amazon yesterday in California, and they took his temperature
Wow.
before they even let him on the property, which was pretty awesome. So,
Well, I have a feeling. I have a feeling there's going to be some kind of combination of that for the music business to get rolling again as we unpack the country again.
right.
We've talked with people and as somebody who hired bands and brought them into your venue, this is the way I see it. There will be some kind of combination of testing or whatever for people to just have the confidence to say, I'm going to go in that room with 500,000 other people that I don't know and sit close and try to enjoy some music. So it's encouraging to hear that there are some companies that are actually doing it already.
Amazon has pretty stepped up, and I think they got burnt a couple of times. A couple of their warehouses got shut down because people tested positive. And the cost, I mean, Amazon have got billions and billions anyway, but the cost for them to empty that warehouse, sterilize it, put everything back in, had to be pretty huge.
Yeah.
We do a bunch of, before the virus, we did a lot of stuff for V-Star Entertainment, which does the Paw Patrol theater shows. And they're owned by Cirque du Soleil. Now, Cirque, you think of Cirque, of Las Vegas, Macau, China, all the cruise ships are Cirque shows. They're just hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
They owe us about 60 grand, which I don't think we're going to see, but they said last time they were 90 million in the hole.
No.
Wow.
God.
And you know that when you bleed out, you die.
Right.
So, I mean, it remains to be seen so you touched on this a little bit ago, and you said that, as we know, the entertainment just kind of stopped, and that's where your business was. And then, so did you just immediately go into moving the freight, or did it take a little bit of time to negotiate all that and figure it out?
We had a bunch of trailers of equipment, theater equipment, that we returned to the corporate office, which took about a week. And then immediately we dropped those trailers. I got freight for our guys. So,
so there was very little downtime that your guys had, really.
We had zero downtime. Yeah. So that was kind of good. But, we should have held on to some of that equipment as ransom. But
well, then you could go back to Vegas and do your own Cirque show.
right.
The problem is nobody's in a position to buy any of it right now anyway. So.
Right, exactly. So, and then I'd have to pay to store it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I got a question. Knowing from tour managing and having to work with our driver and the impact of the electronic logs and how that changed a lot of the way our day maps out. Has the DOT loosened any of that restriction on you guys as far as getting what's the word you used? It was essential items moved across
Right.
the country. Any
So the
loosening of that?
the DOT, if you were hauling essential products like food items, paper products, you did not have to log
Wow.
under a personal conveyance. And so you are, as long as you used it wisely and weren't driving 18 hours a day, you had the flexibility to drive, 12, 14 hours a day rather than the 10 mandatory.
Right.
All scale houses have really been closed for the last 6 weeks, apart from Wyoming, who are Nazis. But yeah, there's been no real, you don't have to go through a scale house, and the logs have definitely been lifted. Today, May 1st, they are starting to reopen scale houses and then tighten back down on the DOT stuff. So it's going to go back to normal here probably by the end of May. But
Okay.
yeah, Amazon would give you a form, a piece of paper that said it was essential items, and that was kind of your guarantee that you could just go. So
I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but what if you did get pulled over? Would you have to have had back to manual logs, your handwritten logs?
you can still do an electronic. It's just not. It's just recorded differently. So I don't know if you can see. So if you go, so your hours of operation, you can drive 11 hours. You can be on duty for 14, and you can do 70 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So now you could do 80 or 90. But I mean, freight is a different animal than entertainment because you're having to rely on, and the problems are not only moving the freight, the problem is inside the warehouse with staffing to load that trailer. And some of these huge distribution centers are backed up for hours and hours and hours when they're trying to load as many trucks as they can.
Right.
So having to sit at a warehouse in a loading dock waiting to be loaded and still on duty, and then haul ass down the road, and then you're at the other end trying to get unloaded, and then trying to book something kind of in between, and then juggle your hours of sleep, and it's a lot more difficult when there's so many different factors involved. I had a load 2 weeks ago dropping off at a warehouse, an Amazon warehouse. I won't say where, but I got in. They assigned me a dock. I backed up to the dock and got all ready. And then a guy came out about 20 minutes later and said, "We've shut the warehouse down."
Oh, jeez.
Walked into the dock with their equipment.
Their stuff.
24 hours.
You're blocked in?
Well, they locked the trailer to the door.
Gotcha. Yep.
So I ended up having to drop the trailer there, because it was their trailer anyway, dropped it there to be able to leave.
Wow.
That hole took 24 hours, and there's no compensation for that.
Yeah,
So-
that's just time that wasn't built in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's so good to talk to you, because so many people, they see a truck or they see this needs to go there. Why can't that truck just do this? They don't know the ins and outs of, I heard somebody say something about a fuel truck being converted to carry milk because the people in upstate New York had the milk, but they couldn't get it. And I'm like, you can't just turn a truck around, rinse it out with a garden hose and expect to carry, food.
Yeah, that would be, I think there's a process they do. It's some kind of steam. They have to steam clean it, but I don't know if I want my milk coming out of a diesel hauler.
And, and it certainly doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that's the thing people got to realize. There are so many rules and regulations to keep people safe and to keep the industry flowing in some kind of logical way. I know there was a demand for tankers, and what you use milk as an example. So they were bottling milk where they'd put them in plastic cartons. They couldn't get the plastic liter things as quick as they could, so they were using
an old inventory of bottles of milk.
Wow.
Back in the days in Australia, you know, where the old milkman would drop off your bottles in the front.
Yep.
Just to get milk to people, you know.
Yeah.
So
let's jump over to you live in Vegas. That's your home base.
right.
Wayne and I lived there, and we saw what happened in 08, 09 during the recession. And while that was a problem, life went on. You know, the slot machines kept dinging, and people kept playing the tables, and the shows kept going on and whatever. What's it like there now?
You could swing a cat on Las Vegas Boulevard. So I drove a truck and trailer down Las Vegas Boulevard on a Friday night at 10 p.m. Phew, right down the middle. There were cars around, which that trip, if anybody doesn't know, from Mandalay Bay to Fremont Street, which is the length of the major strip, it could take you 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It took me 5 minutes.
Right.
That's insane.
5 minutes.
That's insane.
And it's I mean, it's pretty bad when, you know, when all those casinos and the amount of employees, each casino ending up about 6,500 people, Mandalay Bay is about 5,500 people, and that's just 2 casinos.
Yeah.
And I think the unemployment package Trump rolled out with this extra $600. Like one of my sons worked for a casino in Vegas, and he's on unemployment and gets an extra $600 a week, which has helped him immensely. But without that, people, I mean, unemployment isn't very good. I mean, and so people aren't paying mortgages, rents, and electricity bills, and those people still want their money. So
right. I don't think any of us ever really thought we would see Vegas, the city that's 24/7, completely shut down. I mean,
I'm curious to see how it's going to reopen.
well, I was going to ask you, do you have any thoughts on that, or have you heard anything?
I don't know. Texas is doing an opening. They're opening restaurants today at 25% capacity. So I think casinos are going to realign their slot machines and maybe take out every other one, or turn every other one off to create some distance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of the restaurants will be open. I think it'll be open for gambling. I know most of the big guys you can still gamble online, and all the degenerate gamblers are gambling online anyway. But I mean, there's not going to be any entertainment. There's going to be very little food. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So, and I would like somebody needs to monitor once we start opening these soft openings, if there becomes a spike in people testing positive.
Yeah.
You know, there's the big meeting in California, the big demonstration, and it spiked that weekend. The test results came up, and that area had spiked could it be because 10,000 people got together and complained? Or I don't know. So yeah. It's going to be interesting.
And I don't, people may or may not realize this, but you know it, we know it from living there. You would go, they have slot machines in like CVS and
everywhere.
Yeah. Have they cut those off completely? Like, have they roped those off in those type of stores? Because those type of stores are still open.
The last gas station I went to was the Terribles.
Mm-hmm.
Great name.
Yeah.
And those machines were off.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I think only because the company that services them is shut down, so they can't be serviced.
Right.
So, but I see them kind of spacing out their gambling. I mean, you see when you walk in MGM, there's 20,000 slot machines on the floor.
Yeah.
So limited them down to 5,000. You know, that's some revenue instead of no revenue. I don't know.
I'm curious, and this is totally, we didn't give you a heads up on this one, but as a previous restaurant owner, if you were still in that business and you were facing so let's just take one of your restaurants that you had in Texas.
Okay.
The steakhouse, I guess. How many people did it seat at one time?
It was about 1,000 because we had a game room in the back, and then a dining area, and then an entertaining area, and kind of like a horseshoe bar in the middle.
So what would you be looking at? Just if you can kind of give us a quick thought on, okay, we're gonna start easing back into opening up restaurants, and now they want me to cut my tables down. You know,
The problem people don't see is it costs. There are fixed expenses in operating a restaurant: the rent, the electricity, the gas. If you're going to cook for people, you need a kitchen staff. You need inventory. You know, every restaurant's been closed for the last 6 weeks, so anything on the shelf is bad unless it's dry goods. So everybody's going to have to order food in. So those expenses, if you're only catering to 25% of your capacity, does the cost meet the expense, or and I don't think it does.
And that's what Wayne and I were saying too, because then you have to bank on people actually at that 25% of people actually coming. And right now that's not, you know, we've been hearing in some areas that it's costing them more to open back up. They were doing just fine with curbside or delivery.
I think most of these people are going to stay on the curbside, you know, like McDonald's does. You can order it on your little app and boom, it's there waiting for you. Even a truck stop, McDonald's is at a lot of truck stops, and you can order it online and boop, 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 and off you go. Because I don't want to eat McDonald's the rest of my life, but breakfast sandwiches are pretty good.
Last thought here. Being Australian, I think we talked a little bit about. We had heard some reports from one direction that it was very dire. From another direction, coming out of it, flattening out, so on and so forth. Tell us about your family down there and how they're feeling, how they're coping.
I've got a mom and dad in Hobart, Tasmania. And my older brother is in Hobart. My sister's in Melbourne. She's with her boyfriend, and they're pretty isolated. She's an arty person, so they live in a big warehouse and are pretty self-contained. My dad had some major surgery a couple of years back and is still recuperating from that, lungs mainly, emphysema. So he doesn't leave the house.
Right.
My mom will go to the grocery store, but she's elderly too. But she's fully aware of what's going on, and she'll mask up. And Australia's done a pretty good job with, in one way, out the other way, and they're pretty big on the whole distancing thing. I think way better than Americans. So the cases in Tasmania have been pretty low. And you know, she's in good spirits. She calls me once a week, more worried about me than her. So,
right.
Do you feel? I mean, before all of this, if you wanted to go, you go get a ticket and get on a plane and go. Has this kind of created within you a little more isolation than normal because from them?
The fact that if anything was to happen, I can't get on a plane and be in Australia in 20 hours. Yeah, it's like my mom started talking about her will the other day, and I go, no, I don't even want to talk about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like her to come out here, and but not right now, of course. But you know, they're getting up there, so you know.
It's well, and I think that's the whole purpose of that we wanted to do this podcast, was not only to talk about you know, the industries that our friends and colleagues are involved in, but also how it affects you in your everyday life, because it drove me crazy to hear, oh, we're all in the same boat. No, we aren't, because you have parents that are literally on the other side of the world that you cannot get to right now. You know,
Yeah, I think Australia, I mean, especially with the fires, I mean, that was pretty devastating.
Yep.
And this right after the fires, and the Prime Minister of Australia kind of got his ass kicked a little on the fire, the way he handled it. And so when the virus came down, he was all over it because he didn't want to be punched in the face twice by his people. So they've been pretty big on lockdown in Australia, and I think the numbers show that, because they closed their borders. I mean, nobody in, and if you do fly in, you're escorted from the airport to a hotel and you're quarantined for 2 weeks. So something America should have done from day one, but you know.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So has this last thought here? So has this whole thing, the way it's changed everyday life, has it changed you to look at life differently or put things into a different perspective for you?
We are going to be moving out of Las Vegas, my wife and I. She's actually in Albuquerque at the moment because her son, her children are there. So she wanted to be a little closer to them. We just got some land in southern Oklahoma. And I'm going to build a container home on that off-grid.
Awesome.
If this ever happens again, we are way more self-contained than most.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is the last time this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Agreed. A full circle way to end this. We started with your interesting career path, and now you're headed for the wilds of Oklahoma to build a container.
Well, it's actually closer to the Cowboys Stadium than Vegas, so that's good.
True.
That's a good.
That's
thing.
a plus.
I'm only 3 hours from Dallas.
Still got the season tickets?
I do not. I gave them priorities. That's what happens when you get married.
I hear you.
Although she doesn't mind going to the games, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
But and that's going to be an interesting thing too, as how football launches this year.
Yes, it will. And
empty stadiums. They've got to have that TV money, so they're going to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We will definitely have to have another conversation about container homes, because I kid you not, when we moved out here, I said, let's just get some land and build a container home. And I have this whole idea for one in my head.
Well, the cool connection to Vegas too is that container area, Container City or whatever, just south of Fremont Street, is so cool. I mean, boutique bars and boutique clothing stores and whatever built on stacked containers. It is something to behold. It's really cool.
There's a lot of container homes in Australia, and I've done a lot of research, and some of these homes are amazing.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
With I'm not talking about just throwing a container out there and sticking a porta potty in the corner. We're building properly, and I got a really good deal on 3 containers through my trucking connections.
Sure.
And I've got a solar guy that is going to utilize one of our trucks for about a week and a half to transport his stuff, and we're going to get a full solar system for free, basically. Well, I mean, we'll trade it.
Yeah.
And so that gives me power, and there's a pond on the land, so, and we'll do some rain catchment system as well. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to a project other than driving. As I said, I don't normally drive the way I have been. I'm normally sitting at home in the morning and brokering loads and doing that stuff, and then I have my afternoons free. But you know, when the shit hits the fan, you get behind the wheel and you do what you can. So
That's right.
we'll do it until things kind of settle out and see how we get, and then it'll be back to building. So,
Well, knowing you, I never thought for a second that you would do anything less than state of the art with your containers. You've always done things to the absolute best and the max. So this will be an interesting conversation in another year or so.
I may be able to grow my own steaks again.
Whoa.
Well, see, I'm telling you, you get yours all done, we'll come visit, and then we'll talk, because I have my own eye on land and farming. And
You're a bad influence, Wayne. You're a bad influence.
Well, one thing about my wife, she's a big nutritionalist, and she likes gardening and growing stuff, and she's not big on animals like chickens. If she didn't eat chicken in her life, it wouldn't faze her. But we can do chickens and lay eggs and some meat chickens, and you know, just on a small level. I'm not wanting to be a big farmer. I just want to.
Yep, me either. I just want to be
and,
sustained for us, you know.
And she's big on canning and bottling stuff. She knows how to do all that stuff. So, but she won't move there until it's complete.
Smart woman.
Smart,
She
yeah.
doesn't want to rough it. So
Smart woman.
I think I'm liking. I think she and I would get along really well. I can't wait to meet her.
Oh, I know you would.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Good to see
Be
you guys.
safe out there.
And
Stay-
above all, safe travels, my friend.
Yes.
Always.
Take good care.
Stay
All right.
well.
Talk to you soon.
Thank
ya.
you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.